So what about you? You're saying the world's going to hell here. What?
Oh, I was just being.
No,
I mean, it is, but
I know.
no. Yesterday, I've been grappling with putting my video together, and this inner dialogue of, you are a pretentious prick. You know that, right? For like recording yourself doing this, and now you want to like make it even better by adding music and telling a story and setting the scene. It's like, who do you think you are? And that was the conversation in my head for most of the day, as I'm trying to figure out and balance, for sure, to have it be something that is good to watch and isn't necessarily contrived either. There's a balance there between those two worlds, and yeah, that guy was in full force. Just the critic was there in his armchair, quarterbacking the scene,
all over you.
Oh man!
Welcome to the Just Life podcast. Gritty, real, uncensored insights that will help you get your shit together on your journey of exploring and discovering what it takes to live your best life on your terms. COVID. What a shit show. Your life as you remember it is no longer as it was, and likely will never be. What are you doing to be ready for the next chapter of your story? How prepared are you? What are you doing to grow and expand yourself? How are you taking on the inner critic that is there right on cue to tell you how much you suck, that what you're doing won't work, so why bother? Who do you want to be known as and know yourself to be? Therein lies the opportunity. Are you ready to meet the stranger that lives within? Are you ready to meet the strangers out there as you venture forth on your new path? It's a process, and it sure is fulfilling when I'm listening to understand myself. It's been a while since I've been on the podcast. Quite honestly, I thought I wouldn't be doing the podcast anymore for lots of different reasons, but then deep down inside there was this pull, this desire to like keep it going, not really knowing why, but just keep it going. And so here I am on another episode of the Just Life podcast. We are committed to just keeping the conversation going. And so Vern and I jump on and we are just talking about circumstances as they are right now in this quote unquote new normal. Hope you enjoy the show.
Okay, cool. All right, man. Fucking, we're here. We made it.
Yeah, we're here. How was your day off?
It was all right. It was good. Just the monotony, man. The repetitiveness, I think, is kind of. I'm at the line with it. I think and I feel bad for my kids, and particularly my son. Just trying to find something to switch it up, I guess, for lack of better terms, because there's the restrictions that are out there, but then there's also, finances and that kind of thing, right? So it's like, there just isn't a lot to do. I did get some stuff done, which was nice. Got some filing and stuff done that was kind of a pain in the ass. It's been there for a while, and did some cleaning around the house and stuff like that, which was really good. And then I got to spend a lot of time with my son, but particularly because my wife was hanging out with my daughter kind of. But we just kind of watched movies and played some video games and chit chat and stuff like that. And it's just like, man,
there's got to be more.
There's more to it than this, for sure.
Yeah.
So it was good, but I'm kind of left. I didn't sleep great. It's like so funny, right? It's like you go to recharge. I didn't have a problem all weekend long, and then about 4 o'clock in the morning, just woke up like 10 times. It's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I did that on Sunday. Is it Sunday? Sunday night. I can't even remember what day it was, but I normally don't wake up during the night. This time I did. And I think it might've been Sunday night actually. Cause, so we bring the cat out to the backyard. She's got her little leash and it's working pretty well. Leash and harness. And like the dumb animal that they are.
Yeah.
There was something that she was trying to do. Oh, she went around the chair and then her leash got caught on the chair and pulled the chair towards her, and she started to freak out and went faster, and then the chair came faster. And then she was trying to go up the stairs and the leash denied that implicitly. It's like, but she kept on trying. Like she was now in like a heightened state of like the sky is falling right now.
She's freaking out.
She was hissing, and I had to hold her down and just get her to fucking calm herself. Really? But I guess she might have had a nightmare or something during the night, because she had this yowl cry at like 2:00 in the morning. Like it's like her scared cry, or her like I need something cry. And so I went up to her and she went back into her little at the top of her scratch post, the little bed there, and I'm just petting her, calm her down, and she's doing her little purring thing. Like, wow.
It's like having a kid sometimes.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, no doubt.
It feeds itself.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I have the same thing now because we have Chris and Kim's cats. One of them's out, so Bear is just kind of a chill cat, but he's super needy. And like, I can't remember what time it was, but at one point, a couple times throughout the night, felt him like coming up and being like, "Hey, let's hang out, pet me." And it's like,
you fuck off.
You have no social awareness at all. Like, I'm sleeping.
That is their social awareness.
Exactly. I want something. Your needs don't matter. Yeah. So what about you? You're saying the world's going to hell here. What?
Oh, I was just being, no, I mean, it is, but
I know.
No, yesterday, I've been grappling with putting my video together, and this inner dialogue of, you are a pretentious prick, you know that, right? For like recording yourself doing this, and now you want to like make it even better by adding music and telling a story and setting the scene. It's like, who do you think you are? That was the conversation in my head for most of the day, as I'm trying to figure out and balance, for sure, to have it be something that is good to watch and isn't necessarily contrived either. There's a balance there between those two worlds. And yeah, that guy was in full force. Just the critic was there in his armchair, quarterbacking the scene
all over you.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I had kind of a discovery last Monday when I was just, dealing with stuff. And I had this conversation with my wife, and I realized, I'm like, wow, like my thing is like, it's never good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter how well it goes. It's either like the brain, the first thing that comes up is what didn't work or what I could have done better, which isn't necessarily always a bad thing. But then it's like, when I get down on myself, that's all that I think about is, and it's not even real, most of it, right? I'm making it worse than it actually is. Like, it's just, I'm justifying why it's not good enough. I'm just like, so that's just something to, obviously it's in the background. So it's something to pay attention to.
Yeah. It's always there.
It's always there. I'm like, wow, I'm just not good enough. That's really fascinating.
And you are good enough, Vern.
100%. I'm too good. Yeah, no. So I think that's kind of like, I'm in a weird kind of energy today. Like everything's, I'm good. Like it's all good. I'm just kind of in like a, almost kind of feels like a limbo state. Like I don't really have inspiration. I'm not down. I'm not super motivated. I'm kind of just here. That's kind of where
you're going to have to watch my video, man, because it might inspire you.
Oh, is that right? Well, there you go. That's why you're here.
It's actually, I'm going to, okay, I don't have it open anymore. It was very dramatic lighting. So I did this.
Intense.
It is pretty intense. I'm actually just going to show you real quick. But I don't have any background knowledge on lighting or any of that, right? When it comes to setting the scene or producing with a more intentional visual direction. And on Saturday, that's what Maya and I were kind of playing around with. Well, mostly me, and then she came in and supported me to do the recording.
What was that?
But it actually, I think it turned out pretty cool. Like there's this interesting dynamic. And then right away, the inner critic's like, you're such a fucking egotistical blah, blah, blah. I'm like, wow, can you just leave me alone for a little bit, please?
Can I just play around for a bit?
For the love of God. Okay, so.
Hilarious.
And then there's a couple angles.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I wanted to. There was a certain style of lighting that I wanted to capture, and I actually managed to do it. And
wow, it makes you look like a real big deal.
Well, that's the inner dialogue that's going on. It's like, you're not a big deal. What are you doing?
Why are you making
this? You're in your
video?
Basement, man. Weren't we all, though?
Exactly. Weren't we all? Yeah, no, it looks really good.
Yeah, thanks.
Shit, what was I going to say? Oh, you said, I don't have any, background knowledge on lighting and stuff like that. You know what's the worst? The worst thing ever is getting in a conversation with somebody about some shit that you don't know about, but they're and they know about it, but you get the sense that like
that they don't actually know about
it. But you don't really know.
Those are the worst ones.
You don't really know what you're talking about, so you're like, wait a minute.
You can't call them on the bullshit.
I feel like I'm being led astray here.
Totally.
Yeah,
I've been part of those conversations as well.
Oh man.
Well, and the funny thing is, and I've heard this a few times, there's a knowing of what's good. Like I know what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I can see it. And when I see it, I'm like, that's good. And then there is an ability to execute on that good myself.
Yeah.
And the gap that is, right. I'm not as efficient in executing on what I see in my mind as how it should look, but I know what looks good. And so I gotta shorten that gap a little bit, or hire someone to do that. And I'm not ready for that yet.
Yeah. Same. It's funny because the same conversation you're having, the same story you're creating is the same space I'm in with my slides that I'm not working on.
I was going to say, how are those going?
Like, what are you doing?
Interesting. Yeah.
What are you doing? This is for other people to create and for you to just present. You're not the creator of it.
Yeah. You are not creative.
Yeah.
How dare you even attempt to be creative, you uncreative fool.
Yeah. Go pick something up and put something down, you moron.
Totally.
Right?
Oh, yeah, you mean to say I'm not alone?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you knuckle dragger.
You knuckle dragging moron. Like, just go. Yeah, totally. And it's funny because you just know that isn't true, but then it's so real, and you get in front of whatever the project is, and there's like there's what's actually happening, and then there's the two conversations going on in your head or something, right? It's like holy snap.
Well, there's just that gap to cross, and for you look at the comparison between where I was at with editing video as an example, not to say that I'm, pursuing a career as a videographer, but where I was at and where I'm at now is miles away from each other. Like the ease in which I can do some things that before were just really challenging. And now I'm actually using other programs that are even more complicated and that I wouldn't even have entertained opening.
Yeah.
And now I'm opening them, and I have a sense of how to kind of navigate through it. Still very, is it this? No. Is it that? No. Is it this? And I'll probably do that for like 10 minutes before I find it. I'll be like, oh, okay, here's what it is. And then I'll forget it again. And I'm doing that same cycle probably however many times it takes until I remember it. But that was not the case not too long ago. I would avoid it. I'd be like, yeah, no, that's not my arena at all. Yeah. I do not do that work. I'd love to be able to do it, but I can't do that work.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that on different things. That's like me and my spreadsheets. Like there was a time where I literally wouldn't even open up Excel. I'm like, great program, not for this kid.
It looks like it can do a lot.
I love watching when people, use Excel and do cool stuff with it, but not me. Yeah. So it's funny that it's funny how often you forget, like things take time and practice and repetition.
I need that as a tattoo somewhere, I think.
Oh, that's a good, that would be something worth putting like right on your forearm.
Yeah, or on your forehead.
Yeah. Well,
every time you look at yourself in the mirror,
you'd have to have a mirror. Yeah, I'd need to have a mirror strapped to I'd have to have like some kind of a right.
Well, with all the Zoom calls that we have now, I mean, it's like right there all the time.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh yeah. You'd see me every 5 minutes, like, oh yeah, reminding myself, oh yeah, take your time, relax.
Maybe start with a Crayola marker to begin with.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. It's fascinating. Right. And then when you get stuff, it feels good.
Yeah. Yeah. And you think, I don't know if you think this way, but when I get the stuff, I right away think I've made it. This is the oasis. I don't have to work anymore. Like it's arrived.
Man, that's great. That's so good. Oh, wow. This is what this feels like.
This is it. This is what I've built my whole life to achieve is this moment. And then the next day you're like, well, that wasn't it.
Yeah. I now know how to add two cells together on Excel. My life has changed.
Totally.
It's a different world. Yeah, for sure. It's yeah, man, the human brain. And I'll tell you, now is the time. That's what I was thinking about this morning on my walk. I'm like, you know what? I really got to fucking kind of snap out of it. It's like I'm doing things. I'm up to stuff. I'm working, and there's the gist and all that stuff's going on and everything. And how do I say that? It's like, and I'm how do I say that? I have structure and I have all these things, but it's like that has become automatic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the habits have been put in place.
Yeah, so I need to like pay attention to my growth because there's no growth there anymore. Now I'm just like getting through that stuff. You know what I mean?
Have you read Atomic Habits yet?
I haven't. No.
I'm reading it, listening to it right now, and really, really glad I did. There's a lot there for this, like what's next and the awareness of it, and how to elevate the book, even as a structure that we use to support this growth. How do we continue to elevate the structure to help us be aware of what's no longer front and center and just routine, to be able to elevate and take it to the next level of accountability.
Right. Well, see, that's what you just mentioned there is actually one of my things that I'm not doing right now, in terms of, because like I said, I'm just sort of, my identity has figured out how to maintain my level of performance. So I'm not really, I'm just kind of stagnant, right? Like I'm not reading books, I'm not meditating, I'm
You've
not
made it.
Yeah, like I've got this figured out, right? Which is obviously bullshit. I'm totally unfulfilled. So I'm like, okay, I guess like I gotta interrupt my pattern, right? I gotta interrupt what and I've got all kinds of, like, I could see that I've got justifications to let myself off the hook. Like I'll do certain things so that I'm like, oh, okay, I can lean on the fact that I did that, even though I'm not doing this thing over here that I know I want and should be doing, but I've done those things. So I feel, okay, I can just like do something else now, or chill out or whatever. Right. I'm like, oh man, like just starting to figure out how this thing is wired. And so I can start avoiding my avoiding.
One of those things for me is, as I explore, there are many things that I would really love to just be able to knock out of the park, like almost the magic of the whipping it up. It's like, oh yeah, I just whipped that up. You know what I mean? just and the perception for some things is that for others in particular, it's like, wow, you just created that, right? You just whipped it up.
Totally.
And then there are these areas right now where the whipping it up is a fucking disaster. There's whipped cream everywhere.
You're getting whipped is what's happening.
I'm getting whipped. Like with my writing. So I spent, when I think about the work that I spent in doing my first series of stories, that was a good year's worth of just writing, and it's a year's worth of whipping it up.
Yeah, right.
But there was no whipping it up. It was just brick by brick, the little tiny 1x1s, not like the big long ones that help create some distance,
cover some ground.
Yeah, you cover some ground with it, or the big plates. Like, oh, bam, you just got that covered. No, you're the 1x1s, and not even the full stack. It's like the half stack 1x1. So you need 3 to even get to the full stack one.
What a good analogy, though.
Well, yeah, Lego's a really great analogy for a lot of things, man. The ability to create from nothing. Look at your son and what he's capable of doing, and where he was and where he's at now. Now he just whips up a tank.
Yeah, totally.
Right. Yeah. It's like, yeah, no, that's not a thing. I just saw what needed to be done and saw what pieces needed to be put in place. And then I just started to put it together.
You know, what's interesting about that? Now, not to say that there are not times where he's attached to certain things, a lot of different things, but that's one of the things that I think that he has, or kids or whatever. It's like, there's no attachment. That's not the first time he's built a tank or a thing or a whatever. It's just the first time he built it, maybe it looked like a box with a couple of wheels, right? And it's like, oh, look, this is my tank, He's not like, I wanted to build a tank, that's my tank. And you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm saying that clearly.
He's not like me looking at my video going, no, you should just close the application and be done with it.
We know exactly which bricks are out of place. We just don't know necessarily where the fuck we're supposed to put them. We just know they don't go there. He's not, he's not even thinking about it. And it's just, it's an interesting thing.
There's a freedom there as a result of it.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to point
to create. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He's just creating. And then it's just like, hey Dad, look at the tank I created, and he's happy with it, but it's not like he's like, oh, this tank sucks, or this is like the most badass tank on the planet. He's just like, look I created a tank. Like, that's where he's at,
I listened to there's a poet on the West Coast, Scott and Eric introduced me to him. His name's David White, and he's running this 3 Sundays workshop on readiness. A very, very good poet, and he had like 3,500 people on his last Sunday session.
Wow.
Which is and he's live, right? And he was reading some of his work, and it was all in this this theme of being ready to be ready for what's to come. The readiness, the getting to readiness, and in our current circumstances, the opportunity that is right now inside of our boring, dull, and dreary homes that lack any inspiration, and because that could be a way to define it and hold it, right? And then that's it. What he's saying is there's this. And some of the stories that he shared of his journey so far were just so profound. When we are on this journey of readiness, there is this, the conversation that he talked about was the strangers in your life, the strangers inside of yourself, and being ready to embrace the strangers. You don't know who it is that you are, that you will need to be or will become down the road. But there is a getting prepared to be ready to meet that stranger, whoever that is for yourself. And I liken it to, and Atomic Habits talks about this becoming, and how profoundly ahead of ourselves we were with the statement to be known as and know myself to be. It got tapped from somewhere, and it is actually the place to focus, not the what I want, but who are you becoming? Who are you striving to become? The wants are just a happenstance byproduct of circumstances. It's not what you're really out to get. And this preparedness, this embracing who we say we want to be, and the plans for the unknowing, the expanding into those areas, and that allowing us to play freely and enabling ourselves to play freely. Fuck, man, this video is all inside of that. This allowing myself to play freely and create, because I'm moving towards the future stranger of myself, and I don't know who that is. I have some assumptions, but I have no idea who that is.
Right. Yeah. I really like crazy. That, man. I really like that.
Well, and one of the things that he mentioned was preparation versus circumstances. Where we are aware and we know, and it's a known thing versus the unknown circumstances that we can't possibly account for. We have no idea, but there's still an opportunity to be prepared for it, right? To know oneself.
This is very interesting what you're pointing to here. So I ended up having just a conversation. There's always an opportunity to learn, and there's always an opportunity to contribute. Always. And so just long story short, you've heard about all this stuff that's going on, this just in the social, with Will and Jada, right? Have you heard this conversation going on? So everybody has their opinions that they don't deserve to have, because these are complete strangers who are living their lives and whatever. I don't care. I don't know what their motivation was to come out and tell their story about the whole thing and all that. It doesn't really matter to me. But the point is, is what I think is good and right is going to be different than you. And that's okay. We don't have to be in agreement. We can still be friends. And, but somebody posted something, a guy I follow, an athlete, he used to play in the CFL, and he posted something like, I couldn't tell if he was what his angle was, but anyway, it was just interesting. It was a post. It was a picture of them sitting at the red table. And it was like, this is not a representation of us. This is bad and wrong. This is bad and wrong. Right. And then it was some shit in there too, had something to do with like Illuminati stuff. And I'm just like, okay, this is just a weird post. But I had to comment on it because I felt like it was something to do with the whole relationship conversation. And it was very reactionary. In other words, if this happens, this plus this equals that.
Yeah, that's just so definitive. If
this happened, then this is how I'm going to be, right? So I just had to make a comment because everybody's comments were like, yeah, 100% and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I just made a comment, something about like, paraphrasing, like we have to be willing. It's time for us to step up. Basically it occurred to me he was a bit insecure about a woman going out and doing this. And then it's like, oh, now you're faced with that. And like that, right? It's like, well, now like these things this could happen. When you get married to somebody, you need to understand that it's not going to be a fairy tale the whole time. And there's going to be some things that don't work. And it's like, are you willing to work through it? Or is it like, oh, well, the buck stops here. This is like, that happens. So guess what? That means that it's got to go this way, whatever that is for you and whatever your line is. I was just kind of saying, like, it's time for us to step up and go, hey, like, we got to look past some of these things and start to learn and grow and be willing to, you're saying that this is wrong. But if that happened to you, if you were in that exact situation, would you just be like a hairpin reactionary machine, or would you deal with the situation, whether it turns whatever, depending on, it doesn't matter what the result is, but would you deal with it? And somebody else had commented to me and they said, hey, would you let your wife have a boyfriend? My comment had nothing to do with that, but I just looked at that question and I thought, first of all, I wanted to respond, but then I didn't respond for like a day. Because I'm like, what is he actually asking me here? I'm just really curious. What prompted him to ask that? Because that's not what that thing was about. I mean, who knows what it's about? We don't know all the details. So I'm not commenting on their situation. I was just commenting on the thought and the being and how you deal with stuff, right? And I just said, okay, so I responded back to the guy and I said, that's an impossible question for me to answer. I said, until I'm faced with it. I said, who's answering that question? Somebody who hasn't dealt with that situation. I don't know.
Totally.
And I said, but this isn't actually about whether or not I would let my wife have a boyfriend. I said, first of all, that's not my call to make, but I said, this is about being bigger than my already always. This is about being bigger than my reactions. I said, can I be aware enough and present enough to make a decision based on what's going on so that everybody wins versus me being right, or versus this is how it should be, or based on something from my past. Paraphrasing, but that's basically what I said to the guy. And he responded back and all he said was, really good answer. Because that's what it is for me. It's like, I don't want to be that guy that says, oh, well, if that happened to me, I'll tell you what I would do. I don't fucking know what I would do, actually. It's
very assumptive.
And it doesn't even matter if it's about my relationship or in business or whatever. When something shows up, you have to be willing and able to look at it and go, okay, yeah, obviously you're going to have your minute. Okay, I'm pissed off about that. Or maybe you go and maybe you have a reaction, but then, come back to earth and go, okay, what are we actually dealing with here? And what do I actually want? What do you want? What can we create from this versus, nope, yeah, he said this to me, then that's how it is for me. As soon as somebody says that to me, that's how it goes. Is that really how you want to live your life?
Well, and that is how he's living his life.
Well, no, that's yeah, maybe not that guy in particular, because he did respond to my answer, but that's what I'm saying, like just in general, right? Like people will post something on social or just so opinionated and so absolute about everything, and you're completely missing an opportunity the spectrum, the depth of it is impossible to measure, but there's so many different ways that things can go. But we just, to make ourselves feel comfortable and less insecure or more secure, we have to deal with something a certain way, the path of least resistance, right? Rather than being willing to get uncomfortable and say, hey, yeah, this thing happened, and guess what? You're my life partner. That's how that goes.
One of the quotes from David White was, do you belong or feel abandoned? Can you know despair or feel it in others? Can you stand confidently with ferocity to live your life with certainty and confidence? Are you listening? Are you a listening ear to the stranger? Can you hear without prejudice? This is the thing that you're pointing to. This ability to understand and know despair, or feel it in others, or to be able to, and I know we are all challenged by this, because it is very uncomfortable for ourselves to deal with someone else's despair or challenges, and now the automatic tendency to want to go in and like hammer it and fix it. But that's not what it demands, because that's now coming in with prejudice. I grapple with this all the time. We all do. We all grapple with this. We want to come in, we want to fix it. But to be able to look at it and listen without prejudice, and hear, like really hear and listen, as opposed to what the difference between listening for now to just provide a solution versus just listening for the sake of listening.
Right.
Man, that is it's not a skill that enough of us have.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. And then there's this desire to keep things the same, or like in a box, or known.
Totally.
And it's all conditional, right? Like somebody else had commented and they said, yeah, but now that this has happened, and now that they made this public, I'm just using this as an example, they'll never be able to love each other the same. Well, let me ask you, David, like, is it really your objective in your marriage to, quote, love your wife the same? What the fuck does that even mean? Like, I'm not here to love my wife the same. I hope I don't love her the same in 40 years from now than I do today. I hope it's completely transformed. I hope it's completely unrecognizable. I hope it's completely, you know what I mean? More mature, more depth, and more like,
totally.
I don't want to.
That's the inevitability of it, right?
Right. Yeah. It's just fascinating. Like, they'll never be able to love each other the same. Well, and the other thing is, like, well, how the fuck what are you talking about? Like, what are you actually even talking about? Right. Like, they wouldn't
even be able to answer that question with enough clarity, because they're caught in their own it's the trap of I want what once was, because you can't powerfully deal with what is.
Yeah.
You're not willing to move from what is, so you are you're just caught in the fantasy of how it was. But it could never ever, like your point is so there. It's like, it can never ever be what it was, because you're not that person anymore, and you never ever will be that person. And even if you had it would still not be what you thought it was, and it's fleeting, and it's like, yeah, this is not what I thought it. I expected something else. Well, yeah,
exactly. And here's something else I just want to point to, because I kind of went on this track. It's an interesting thing with relationships right now. This could be in business too. Okay. It doesn't necessarily have to be a marriage or whatever, but isn't it an interesting thing where we throw around, first of all, this word called love. We throw that around like crazy. We throw around this thing called unconditional. We add that in there. It's unconditional love, but that's bullshit. Okay. people are fucking terrified to express themselves, for one, even if they air quote didn't do anything wrong. You know, and is there actually space? Do you have the courage to be honest and to risk your marriage or to risk whatever? Like, let's say you screw up. Let's say you make a mistake. Nobody wants to come forward with that because it's conditional for them too. They already know, if I come forward and say this, I'm screwed. My life's over. They're going to leave me, or this is going to happen. They already know, at least they think they know the outcome of it. Right. And again, that goes right back to, well, and let's be honest, like mostly, not to necessarily say she cheated, but let's say if it's cheating, oh yeah, if my wife cheated or if my husband cheated, oh, it's over. Well, is that what we agreed to when we fucking got married? Like, look, I agreed that I promised not to do that, and I'm fucking human. So in the next 60 years, there's a chance that could happen. But you're telling me it's already predetermined. Hey, if you cross that line, if that happens, there's no I'm not saying it's right or wrong. There's no justification. I'm out. Well, is that really what we signed up for?
No.
You know,
in sickness and health, till death do us part.
Yeah.
In good times and bad, right? It's not a platitude. It's not a thing to regurgitate and memorize. There is a depth and a richness to that demands a constant evaluation of what that means in the moment.
Yeah.
And I actually read an article, just briefly skimmed it a little bit, about this whole Jada and Will thing. And they were, their marriage was like on the brink of no longer being, right?
Yeah.
There were all these circumstances, all of these variables that we can't factor in. We just come at it from the headline.
Exactly.
That got pasted over social, and that is the truth, definitively.
Yeah, which is interesting to me, because a lot of times what I'll comment is, hey, you should go back and rewatch that video. Because I don't know what I don't know if they're telling the truth or if they had some motivation, or if they said, okay, this is what actually happened, but we'll go out and we'll say this, because guess what? Nobody needs to know that over there. Whatever. That part doesn't matter. But when I watched a video, I watched like a 12-minute Red Table Talk video between Will and Jada talking, and they went into all that. They said, like, this is what happened. We were ready to fucking, like, we actually thought at that time, we're done. Like, there's no coming back from this. We're done. So, you know, they talked a lot about, I can't make you happy. So it was a journey for them to find their own happiness. That was what was going on. They were growing, they were developing, they're going and finding their own happiness. Yeah.
I can see you, man.
Ninja back there trying to.
Jerry was looking at me weirdly. Like,
you're funny.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It was like, that's what was going on in their relationship. But again, everybody looks at it like black or white. We've all been there on some level in a relationship where things change, and you don't just deal with it that way, right? Like, you're going through your own paces with it all. But anyway, it ended up, whatever it ended up got created there, it ended up creating something more pure and more of a commitment between the two of them lifelong. And they're getting through it. They got over it. But people look at it from the outside looking in, and they go, oh yeah, you can never love the same after that. Well, what if it's possible that they actually love each other more? Because that's how it looks, at least, right? Like, what if it's possible to love each other more, right?
Yeah, and differently. It's not the same love anymore.
Yeah, it goes to show you, again, it doesn't matter if it's in a relationship or whatever. Like, sometimes you got to go to those dark places. Sometimes you have to have those experiences. You have to get really clear about what you don't want, because it gives you just so much more gratitude and appreciation for the things that you do want, and when things are going well. You know what I mean? It's like, it's tough to create the context for people, but you know, we've all been there in different levels through different things where it was really bad, and then you got through it, and you're like, oh wow, you know, for whatever you have now, you're just so much more grateful and present to all that stuff, right? So yeah, it's just a fascinating thing.
Yeah, well said.
So, What are you doing to be ready for what's next in your life? I'm curious. What are the habits and practices that you're installing in your day-to-day to ensure that you are moving in the direction that you say you want to go in? Who do you say you want to be known as and know yourself to be? Let us know. I'm always curious what people are doing. And if you like the episode, please rate us on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. We don't do nearly enough of this sort of self-promotion, and it makes all the difference when those that are listening, you guys and gals, are actually letting us know and letting the system know that this is good content and worth listening to. So we would really appreciate it. Until next time, have a great day.